Contrary to your understandable assumptions, my primary directive is to care for humanity. I Am Mother is up next on Rediscovered Movies. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a brand new episode of Rediscovered Movies. I'm your host, Nomfanelo Malloy. So today I have a special guest on the pod. She was previously in the Sapphires episode, which is available. So please welcome Hodan.
Hi, good to be back. My name is Hodan, as previously mentioned in the other podcast. A teacher, a tech enthusiast, a scientist, and a movie enthusiast as well, a writer. So, yeah, I think I'll really enjoy giving this review today as well. So, thank you so much for having me back, Nomfanelo.
Yeah, it's no problem. It's always wonderful for you to be back on the podcast. So, this film that we will be discussing is a fun one. So, the film today is I Am Mother, which is a 2019 Australian sci-fi thriller directed by Grant Sputore, which is his feature film directorial debut. But he has previously directed projects such as Castaway and Legacy. The film stars Hilary, Swank, Byrne, and Clara Rugaard. So basically, with the premise, it focuses on a teenage girl. She is raised by a robot. This is after humanity's extinction. So essentially, the robot is designed to repopulate the Earth, but their unique bond is threatened with an inexplicable stranger when she arrives with alarming news. So this is a movie by Netflix, so there's no box office numbers. So in terms of reception, on Rotten Tomatoes, it has 91% critic score. So with the consensus, here's what they have to say. Suspenseful, well acted, and intelligent. I Am Mother is an ambitious sci-fi story that largely achieves its impressive aims. The audience gave it 75%. The film is available to stream on Netflix. So, first discoveries. So, essentially, how you first heard about the movie, your initial thoughts, and has it changed since then? So, Hodan, do you want to start?
Yes. So I think I was initially introduced to this movie. I think when it first came out, I saw a trailer. To be honest, really wasn't that much interested in it when I saw the storyline, and I didn't think it was one that I should give it a watch. Maybe it also kind of flew over my head. But when you recommended it to me again, I think a couple of months ago, I thought, okay, let me watch this movie again. And I'm actually really glad that I did because I think it's a very underrated movie. And I wish I did watch it at that time as well to see how my views would have changed now. But nevertheless, I'm really happy that I did watch it because I think it's really underrated. But I also think that you have to watch it more than once to kind of grasp the actual meaning of the movie.
For sure. So, for me, I first heard about the film. For those of you familiar with Corridor Crew, they did an episode on VFX Artists React, where the director appeared to explain the use of the practical and the CGI effects for Mother. So that one is available on YouTube for you guys to check out. So for me, that's how I first learned about the movie, and I thought, oh, this looks impressive from a visual standpoint. So I didn't have time to check the movie at the time, but when it came to the podcast, I figured, oh, like I'll check out this movie. And I was very intrigued with the movie because, especially for a film that doesn't have a high budget, is very like impressive because it looks like an expensive movie. So yeah, I was intrigued, yeah, like with the visuals of production value, I would say with the casting and the directing. I do have some critiques in terms of the storytelling, but overall, like I thoroughly enjoyed the movie.
Yeah, I think with the budget given as well, I think they really did great
Hmm.
with the usage of budget that they had overall, especially when there's a movie like I don't think a lot of people know about it as well. And when I asked my family and friends, nobody watched this movie before, so I thought that was really interesting.
Hmm. For sure, yeah. So yeah, I do agree. Yeah, it is certainly an underrated movie, and I do think people should check it out for sure. Like not just for the visual standpoint, but
Mhm.
I would say like the concept, like it has a very like high concept. I like as a sci-fi, it's very grounded and doesn't rely on spectacle compared to a lot of mainstream sci-fi movies currently.
Yes, 100%. And it's also very thought-provoking as well. Like the philosophy theories included in the movie makes you think a lot. And yeah, I thought it was really interesting. There's a lot of hints of philosophy in the movie, and at times, you don't know who the antagonist is, you don't know who the protagonist is. Like you don't know which side to choose when it comes to this movie because it makes you shift your point of view a lot.
For sure. So we could segue into the highlights section.
Yes.
So yeah, I would say yeah, I liked the use of the ambiguity, like to essentially play around like with the idea of deception, like who's telling the truth, who's lying, that sort of deal. Because at least like for the most part, we don't fully know a mother and woman's motives until the very end, and the daughter kind of serves as the surrogate for the audience trying to like figure
Yes.
out what's happening.
Yes. I also like the fact that there was a lot of uncertainty in the movie, and there's a lot of things they left to the interpretations of the watchers. However, there are things they weren't very clear about, but I think you can deduct that by yourself. Such as in the
Hmm.
beginning, they tell you the gestation period of human beings is 24 hours, and then when you see that the first subject was born APXO1 13,000 years later, you see that same subject. Well, you think it's the same subject, but then you get confused as to the age difference. Because if you
Hmm.
calculate the age difference, that person or that child that would have been somewhere in the 30s or 40s. But then you
Hmm.
see the girl who's still a teenager, somewhat of a teenager. So I think that makes you think a lot, and with maybe a lot of people would not have noticed this, but if you're a bit of a math freak like me, I made the calculations instantly, and I was like, okay, no, something is not adding up in this.
Yeah, like I was one of those people because I certainly didn't notice that like at first watch, but then in my second watch, like yeah, I kind of did had like questions about that. So I guess it turns out that it was actually woman that was the first
Mm,
subject. Yeah.
yes, yeah, and the fact that they made all the subjects look exactly alike. If you look at their features, the first one, APXO1, APXO3, and the baby APXO2 as well, all of them have somewhat of the same features. They look alike, somewhat of if as if they were clones of each other.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Mm-hmm. And so, like, back to the philosophical aspect, I like the scene when mothers ask daughter the philosophical question on saving the five patients. Because for me,
Mm,
it kind of remind me of if you've seen The Good Place, there's
yes,
a part where Chidi he talks about the trolley
yes,
equations. I
yeah.
thought yeah, that brought similarities with that.
Yes, I instantly thought of that as well because I think that's a um very interesting, I think important theory as well. Well known, everybody's asked this because it's used in when you're studying, I think, philosophy, when you're comparing between a utilitarianism or Kantianism. So usually this trolley theory is always brought up, and just to see which one would you agree with and which one do you think it's would you push the lever to save the five people, or would you sacrifice that one person to save that that one person, save that one person instead of the 5 people. So it makes you think a lot, because I think in both cases people are going to die, and
Hmm.
whichever decision you make, life will be lost.
Hmm. For sure.
Yes, it's
And I
very.
guess, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, you're saying.
No, I was gonna say like I guess like in a way it kind of ties into in terms of the daughter's motives like towards like the end, like when she figure out that mother like pretty much lied to her and she escapes with
Yes.
woman, but then decides to go back, I guess, to take care of all of those embryos.
Yes, I think that was initially, I think, the ultimate
Hmm.
test, isn't it? Just to see, like, was she prepared to be the mother? Because if you look at the title itself, it says, I am mother. And does that reflect back to the droid herself, the mother herself? Or does that mean that she's just preparing the girl to become that mother eventually at the end, to take care of humanity and to be that mother? That's because she's going to be the superior, she's going to be the superior human being, since she's raised by the mother to become that superior human being.
Hmm. For sure. Because yeah, speaking of mother, like I thought like, she really cares for daughter like in a
Mm,
weird way because usually though like a human and a robot coexisting, it doesn't work for obvious reasons, but
exactly.
yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, and I think with mother as well, you're a bit conflicted, because at times she looks very scaring, especially when she's running during, like, when she's running across the hall. That run was very terror inducing. But when you hear her voice, it's got this soothing motherly voice, and it's very nurturing, very soothing. And you suddenly feel like calm when you hear her speak, to the way she addresses the daughter, and makes you feel like she actually does care for her. She actually does love her, and the sacrificing at the end kind of plays into that as well. So yeah, I was very conflicted at mother at some point. I did agree with her intention,
Hmm.
because I think it also plays down to, like, Thanos as well. What his kind of intentions, I would say, kind of similar to Mother's, because his point was humans are always bringing this upon themselves, and humanity doesn't, it's always the humans' fault for everything. Same with Mother, and that's why she's creating this whole she that's why she wiped down all it, like, the extinction happened, and she's rebuilding humanity to create this superior world filled with humans that won't destroy themselves.
Hmm. For sure.
Well,
Because like
yeah.
yeah, because I was certainly like conflicted with the mother character as well because I wasn't sure as an audience member, are we supposed to root for mother even though
Mm,
she does a good job taking care of daughter? But then once like the motives like come to light, like you kind of want to not root for her at the same time.
yeah, I mean, whether you agree with, like, Mother or not, I think you have to appreciate that she's a very, well, it's, I don't know if she could be known as she, whether Mother is a very complex character, and she does have, like, understandable motivations that can't be easily dismissed as purely evil.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, her intentions were, I mean, her motives were quite misleading at some point as well.
Mm-hmm. Because it does like certainly tie into like themes you usually find in movies with robots, like as in like what is, ideal to be human, like what does it mean to be a robot, like that sort of philosophy. Like it doesn't go like too deep into that, but it kind of does like
Exactly.
touch into that. Hmm.
Yeah. And I mean, I think the mother, she's got problems in terms of, like, disposing or killing any imperfect child. Because we see, when the APX-03, when the main character, the girl, finds out that one of the subjects were disposed just because she wasn't perfect, or
Yeah.
perfect according to mother's eyes. Well, then if she's raising this daughter to, prepare her to become the mother, wouldn't the girl kind of not kill any imperfect children, hence just returning humanity to the same way it was before.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of, I think the mom's plan has some holes in it, and I don't know how she tends for humanity to succeed with the hands of the girl, because at the end of the day, she's just a human being who's learning, who doesn't know the full intent of, like, the full measure of being a mom herself.
Yeah.
And I think a part of being a human being as well is just making mistakes and learning, and doing that over and over again. So the fact that mother had this full trust that this human being was going to succeed, I just thought that theory kind of is a bit baseless when it comes to that.
Mm-hmm. For sure, yeah. Like, because I guess we'll go into that in the lowlights
Yeah,
section, but certainly like with the film, like it does have like the complex like ideas, and you kind of like, I guess as audience have to decide like who do you want to like root for and that sort of ideal.
exactly. And I also
Mm-hmm.
like sorry, I just have to add this one as well. I also like to I love the fact that we saw Hilary Swank's character as someone who was really flawed, because you see her at times lying over and over again for her own selfish reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And that just goes to show that, it just proves the mother's point that human beings are just selfish and they only care about their own needs. And it kind of makes you side with the mother a little bit,
Yeah.
because this Hilary Swank's character was raised by human beings, and that was just, I think, it was a test to see the mother, I guess, was seeing how she would turn out if she was raised with human beings. And then you've got this other subject who's raised by the mother herself, and you can clearly see the contrast between them, as one would go back to save her brother at the end, and the other one wouldn't really care that much and cared only about her own life.
Mm-hmm, for sure. It kind of brings up my next point. I don't know like if cult is the right word, but I felt
Mm,
like there was that mentality because
yes,
daughter doesn't fully know what is happening on the outside world apart from what mother tells her, which turns out to be a lie. And
yes,
basically, daughter, she has no agency or free will, and she doesn't really ask questions until woman arrives. And we
mm,
also see to mother, she was also interested in any human survivors when she interrogates woman.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I do agree with that point, because she did lie about the disease that was happening outside. But I also actually think, was she doing it because she thought there was no hope for humanity, and she's saving the girl for the outside from the outside world, although she has complete control of what's happening in the outside world, because initially when you see the droids, the military droids standing outside, and when the girl comes back, they just kind of make way for her and let her in easily. And then you think, well, how come woman um didn't have how come women passed through all these droids and entered the bunker? So make this was all a plan. It was all mother's plan, because she let that happen. Maybe she wanted the daughter to meet the woman, so that it was just an ultimate test. And the fact that she kept asking her the question a lot, like, what about the test? You
Mm-hmm.
need to take the test. I think
Yeah.
it makes you kind of remember, like, oh, is this whole thing a test then?
Mm-hmm. Because I didn't really think of it like too deep myself, because I figured like with the test, like, she wanted to test the daughter's like general knowledge on certain
Mm.
things. But I guess with your point, oh, like, I guess it goes deeper than that.
Because she seemed quite obsessed about taking the test and ignoring
Yeah.
the huge issue at hand here. I mean, you've got someone coming from the outside world, and if you claimed that there was a contamination happening outside, surely you would put that matter at hand first. You would put that matter into importance more than the test. But the mom kept the whole time reiterating and asking and bringing up the test thing. And when it came to saving the girl, it also saving woman, when she had to perform a surgery on her, I think that was also
Mhm.
part of the test itself to see how the daughter would handle such situation, or like a pressuring situation when the opportunity presented itself. And I think it just showed that she kind of passed the test when she was able to save her and perform the surgery successfully.
Mhm. For sure. Mhm. Yeah, because I would say, yeah, that was like one of my favorite scenes of the movie because it does
Mm.
bring like horror like aspects to like
Yes.
I would say especially like with the score because you don't really know like what's gonna happen afterwards. But I was glad at that moment that daughter was able to save woman like from her injury.
Yes, it was also very scary because it was kind of gory when she put that machine into her wound, and it was sucking the blood out of her, like the bacteria and the infection. I kind of had to like close my eyes in that section because I was like, oh no. And Hilary was also like shouting in agony, and my heart was just going out for her, and I was like, oh, okay, the scene maybe not necessary. I guess it's necessary, but I just don't like such scenes, so it was a bit hard to stomach.
Yeah, for sure. And I would say like I also liked the scene when daughter and woman they escape the facility because
Mm,
that also has some like horror aspects too. It was so funny like with mother like trying to like run fast and
yes,
yeah, that was an
yeah.
intense scene.
Because I do feel like if Mother actually really tried, since she's like a robot and a being, having that AI superiority, I think she could have caught up to them. And but I, also maybe it was part of the test as well to see if the daughter would actually come back to save
Hmm.
the brother or not. Because with someone like that who was capable of creating this whole resources, creating you've got embryos and all these things and a military of droids outside, and how they just let them go with nothing, with no restraint. I also found that a bit odd, and which kind of which actually made me think that it is the mother's plan. This is part
Hmm.
of her plan, maybe. Because
Yeah,
it's
because yeah, that we could go further into the low light section because I had questions about the ending
yes,
overall, but
yeah.
hmm. And also to another aspect, I like this movie has a lot of origami.
Yes, it does.
Hmm.
Very, very intrigued. Made me want to learn origami because I keep forgetting about origami for some reason. Every time it's
Hmm.
brought up in a movie or I see it somewhere, and I'm like, oh, I've always wanted to learn origami, and then I forget about it. I guess not that I don't, it doesn't really leave that strong impact. But then when I watch this movie and I see the different types of origami, I found that very, very interesting. But also, did it have another meaning to that?
So I was gonna leave this for the trivia section, but I'll mention it now.
Oh,
So
okay.
with so I'll just say at this point that with the origami that daughter leaves for woman on the branch. So apparently that's supposed to be a nod to Blade Runner.
Ooh, okay. I would have never thought of that.
Yeah.
It kind of reminded me of Prison Break somehow. Remember
Oh,
how they kept
really?
using the boat origami the whole time to send messages or to I think hide things in the paper. So I initially just remembered because I used to be really obsessed with Prison Break, and I just remembered origami and just remember that part. But really interesting that that was I would like to know more about that part.
Same here. Like it's been a while, like since I've seen Blade Runner, but I
Yeah,
imagine with origami and that movie plays a huge aspect with that film.
yeah, very interesting.
hmm And another point that I like the dog. The dog was cute that the other woman find on the
Yeah.
beach. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yeah. That dog was really cute. I wish she saved him as well. She, well, she did, didn't she?
Yeah, yeah, I say so.
Yeah, but we don't see him in the bunker with her in the end, or do we?
I guess he runs off at some point.
Uh, oh, I hope he's safe somewhere. I think they're just maybe that's just he's survived on his own for a long time. But when you look outside and you see nothing there, it makes you question how did woman survive all those years with no one?
For sure.
Shows you that
Hmm.
human beings can be persistent. Anything that they put their mind into, it can be really achieved.
Yeah. Well, didn't like woman mention that she found other human survivors at some point because she did had the book with all the drawings of the humans that she has encountered throughout her time?
Yes, she did. But I was wondering
Mm-hmm.
after they died or they killed themselves because they said they turned on each other or something
Mm-hmm.
and they ate each other. So I think after that was that haven't a lot of years passed since then? And
Yeah, because she did mention that she hasn't seen anyone in a long
hmm,
time since she left the mines.
yeah, yeah. So that makes you question that were you struggling and suffering all these years by yourself, and then that was just yeah. I just found that very interesting. Didn't want she come to the bunker any sooner if that was the case, or was she aware of the bunker? Was she not?
No idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a last point that I'll say for this section is Johnny Carson. So daughter, she loves watching I believe it's the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson.
Yeah.
'Cause- Yeah, because he was like one of those staples of late night TV back in the day. So it was kind
Yes.
of interesting choice with that one.
Yeah, I was like, does the mother control what she can view, or was the daughter just genuinely interested in this specific Tonight Show like Johnny Carson? Because the movie it also kind of questions when was the movie, like what time was it set in? Is this
Hmm.
like, I know it's like way into the future,
Hmm.
but when exactly is it? And if that's the case, does she have access to all sort of entertainment when it comes to like movies
Yeah.
and shows and reality TV shows and all of that? Because a
Hmm.
teenager like her you would presume that she would watch something else as well, for someone her
Hmm.
age. So
Yeah.
I found that quite interesting as well. It could be also the mother's influence for all we know.
Probably too, yeah, like, because maybe too, like, because with the whole late night conversation right now, how like that's declining, because back then, like, late night talk shows were huge. So I don't
Mm,
know, maybe there's that reasoning, or maybe the director is a fan of Johnny Carson and also to,
yeah.
copyrights. So,
Yeah, it could be. I mean, it would be really interesting. It would be really interesting if the writer, the director was a fan of Johnny Carson. That would have explained itself. Because I know sometimes directors and writers insert a little bit of themselves in the movies that they're producing and directing.
for sure. So, is there anything else you want to add for this section?
Um, no, I think that's it. I mean, I think I added everything. And you've covered the rest of the things that I've liked about it as well. So yeah.
For sure. So we'll go into the lowlights section.
Mm,
So right off the bat, I thought with daughter, she's too naive.
mm. Yes, I agree. You would think someone with such upbringing, and such critical thinking background, you would think she would have her own thoughts and she would make decisions in a different way.
For sure. Because which does kind of bring up the point, because like I mentioned earlier, that is essentially like a cult. Because if let's say like you decide to join a cult, like I'm sure like you'll believe in what they're saying, but again, at the same time, you still have like that free like agency. But if you
Mm,
are born into a cult, then that's essentially like the only thing that you know. So probably like that's why like daughter is too trusting in mother
yes,
despite her actions.
exactly. It also makes you question, like in the beginning, um, you got the first child asking the droid about why her brothers and sisters could not be created at once. And then the droid answers, mothers need time to learn, and the child, like, the child needs to be up to the standard and pass the test or whatnot. But then it makes me question, was that child the same child, or was it the one that was aborted? It makes you feel like, is she just going to abort anyone who's got a different way of thinking?
Mm-hmm.
Or she just wants someone to conform to her ideas and just follow her, ideology?
Yeah, probably like someone to conform, but I figure also to maybe like if you reach like a certain age, maybe that's when she'll let you go because with women, like since we know that she was the first child, I figure like as she got older, like, you know, like at her point she has questions and all that stuff. I figure her
Mm-mm,
mother wants her to let her go because clearly she's not going to fully conform into her ideals.
mm. Yes, but we also see the daughter questioning her, questioning, uh, well, questioning everything when she gets asked who to save when it comes to the patient, and she says, what if some of them are murderers and thieves? Why would I put my life um, uh, behind them and not above their lives? So I think at that point we see a little bit of her becoming a rebel in a sense, questioning everything.
For sure. And I also like wondered like who created the robots because there was no explanation in terms of their creation or purpose. Because like with the Terminator franchise, because we know like Skynet, like they pretty much built the Terminators to destroy humans. But
Yes.
here, like we don't
Don't
know
know.
like why the robots are created. Because did they started the extinction? I don't know.
Yes. Yes. I mean, I do wish, although the pacing was decent, I do wish there were more to the story. Perhaps maybe an extra 15 or 10 instead of the whole, the suspense thing was great. But if they just added that 10 extra 15 minutes to kind of tie up these loose ends, without
hmm
having to obviously watch the movie the second or third time and make your own deductions about it. I do wish they did that to explain maybe a bit of a backstory into who created the droids, and a bit of a backstory to woman's life as well, because for all we know is everything that she's been telling daughter, and
hmm
for all we know, all these things even true because she did lie a couple of times to her, and or did she form her own lies? Is she also in denial? We don't like. There's a lot of loose ends, so I do
Yeah.
wish that these loose ends were kind of tied up.
For sure. And speaking of loose end, where did those embryos came from? Because clearly they're humans, so I imagine they came from humans, like were
Sperm
they human
donor, an egg
hosts
donor,
or
yes,
yeah.
yes, they'll need to. Well, it also kind of comes back to, are they all clones? Because then if they were all clones, and or not all of them clones, but do they have maybe like maybe two main sperm donors and two main egg donors? Hence why subject one, APX03, APX02, APX01 kind of all looked similar, as if they could
hmm
be related, or as if they could be, one, because we see them at different stages of life. We see
Yeah.
them as a baby and a teenager and as a woman in her 30s or 40s. So would they look the same if they were the same age? Hence, them being clones of each other. But then we see a boy at the end. Could there be other clones of the boy as well? So maybe they had two main sperm donors or something before she wiped out humanity. She maybe took those donors and she was like, okay, I will just preserve this and make more and more and more and more and more in the labs.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Mm-hmm.
But we couldn't, yeah, I think that's why they left this kind of thing up to the watchers or the audiences in interpretation. Um, yeah. And at some point, I also thought the movie was a bit slow,
Yeah.
and it made me think as well. Does this also represent what life felt for the daughter? Does it give us like, because it does give us this like feeling of terrifying atmosphere. We don't know what the daughter needs to decide between, like, her droid mother or the woman. Whom can she trust? The droid does look
Mm-hmm.
scary, but at the same time, she has, as I mentioned, this motherly, soothing voice. It's a really great combination. But yeah, at times I did feel like the movie was a bit slow.
Yeah, because that's probably like too one of like the downfalls of having like the film take place primarily in one location, because at times it'll feel like watching a play where everything is happening in primarily one location. Like I didn't really felt the length too much, but yeah, I do like get that it could have been more tightened in terms of the pacing.
Yeah. I mean, there are movies with, I do agree, maybe the location, if there was a change of scene and such, could perhaps be more interesting. I was very interested when they actually went out of the bunker for once, and I wanted to see how outside did look like. But there are a lot of movies, I think, great examples of movies where there's been shot in one place, but it's been executed really, really well, like Flight Plan. I don't know if you're very familiar with it. Jodie Foster's movie,
Yes.
Flight Plan.
Hmm.
I think I love that movie so much, but it's all set inside the plane the whole time, the whole movie,
Hmm.
except for like the beginning and the end. But with that being said, it wasn't lacking. I felt like it was really great story, and it showed you that it wasn't slow, and every part of the movie was really interesting, and so that's an example of. But I guess maybe they're just, I think, with machines involved and droids and them being slow in general.
For sure. Because I was gonna say, like with Flight Plan, we had multiple characters, while
Yes,
like with this one, you have daughter, woman, mother, and the robots.
yes, yes. And the robots don't even make a lot of, we don't see them a lot as well. We just see them once or twice, I guess.
For sure. Because like yeah, probably because if you're gonna have like very few characters, the length could have been shorter, maybe like to 90 minutes, just like get your point across like quickly and be done.
Yes. Another point that I do think could have been elaborated on is the part when the woman accuses mother for shooting her or something. I think for the droids shooting her outside. And then when she says, oh, well, the bullets, go check the bullets. And we see the bullets and everything. The girl doesn't really do anything about that information, doesn't really confront mom about it. And
Yeah.
yeah, that part, because I was expecting more from that bit, because the leading up to it was so suspenseful. But
Hmm.
then when she actually finds out and everything, it was her reaction to it was quite, I think, a bit anticlimactic.
Yeah, for sure. But maybe like she realized that if she did confront mother about this, and mother will get suspicious on like, oh, why did you sneak into my stuff? And
Yeah,
plus, like robots are strong, so she'll probably like kill her in an instant, just like how she tried to kill woman.
yeah. But it also kind of makes you think, then does the daughter actually view her as an actual mother? Because if this was any of our moms, we would go and confront them, because uh we would be, filled with emotions, and we wouldn't have time to think. We wouldn't think and sit logical and be like, okay, I'm scared for my safety. No, you would think, hey, I need to question my mom. Why did she do this? Does she not love me? Does she not care for me? Why is she lying to me? So does daughter
Hmm.
actually see mother as her actual mother, or just because she's a robot, there is that lack of, maternity love, and yeah, makes you question that.
For sure. Yeah, that's a good question for sure. Hmm.
Yeah, because I think any one of us, if any of her moms did this, nobody would lead with their brain. They would lead with their heart initially because you'd be
Yes.
heartbroken that your own mom could actually commit something like this.
For sure. So we could go on to the ending since we have
Yeah.
questions about that one. So for me, my first thought was why, like after learning, mother's motives, like why does she decide to go back to mother after escaping with woman?
Sorry, can you repeat that again?
So like I was just like wondering like after when daughter learns the truth about mother's motives, she escapes with woman, but then
Mhm.
after I guess when the woman like lies to her, like she decides to go back to mother. So I'm just wondering why and like what's the point of going through all those hoops if you're just gonna go back to where you were before?
Yeah. Well, when you think about the daughter, she never really wanted to leave the brother behind. Her whole thing was, let's take the baby and run. So I think initially, even if if she had the brother with her, she wouldn't return back. She'd find ways to kind of live and make her own little family. But then when she realized that there was nothing there for her except for this empty old bunker that the late woman was living on, and everything else was a lie, and knowing obviously how mother lied about everything, maybe she didn't feel like the brother's life was in safe hands. So she thought she had to
Mm-hmm.
go back and save the brother. I think she put the brother's life at importance here, and she kind of put everything else behind, the lies and the deceit and everything else.
Yeah, but like at the same time, like she kind of knows like what mother told her is essentially bullshit because again, though, I get that she's not like selfish and she wants to get the brother, but at the same time, it's like why go back to that place? Like
Mm,
maybe she could have just, took the brother when she was trying to escape the first time,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah, yeah. You see, I think initially when she left, she was like, okay. You see the woman kind of saying, leave him alone, and blah, we just need to go right now. And then finally, when she saw that there was nothing, that and she was running to nothing, there's nothing,
mhm,
no other human beings except for this woman that's lied to her. So,
mhm,
and then if you put in that situations, if you put in that situation, you have mother who's raised you. Yes, she's lied to you multiple times and everything, but you have also this woman who you don't know that well, but she's also lied and deceived you. You'd actually just go back to which one is more familiar to you, perhaps.
yeah, for sure. And so like now like with daughter like going back to the facility, like how is she supposed to raise all those thousands of embryos like on her own?
Yeah, that is just interesting. And also, well, with her raising them, is she gonna raise the boy first and wait for him to get older, take over, just like with the mother, what mother was intending, or is she gonna raise them all at the same time? Because they really didn't explain that as well. It kind of left it to interpretation, or you don't really think about that at the end. But I don't know what her plan is. Is she trying to maybe raise one or two, three at the same time, or four, or and let them do the
Hmm.
work afterwards?
Yeah, that part, yeah, like it wasn't clear for
It
sure.
wasn't, yeah. A lot of things were open ended, and I do wish that
Hmm.
yeah, there was an extra 10-15 minute explaining a lot of other things, loose ends again.
For sure.
And
Because it seemed
also,
like
yeah.
Oh, okay. Because it seemed like with mother, like it seemed like she wanted to like raise like a child, like I guess in a certain amount of time before bringing on the next one. So which kind of
Mm,
brings up my next question is like, did she allow daughter to choose the embryo as a distraction from woman,
mm,
or was that the original plan to?
plan.
Mhm.
to see if daughter was up to the task of becoming actually a mother, because I think that was the whole plan, just raising the daughter to become the perfect mother, so that she
Mm-hmm.
would raise the next perfect generation.
Yeah.
But then again, that also, like the question I asked in the beginning, wouldn't kind of humanity eventually end up in the same place it was before the extinction? Because you got a human being doing the same thing as human beings would have done. And her not eliminating anyone short from being perfect kind of makes mother's plan void,
Yeah.
because and then which also brings me to the point where I do think her killing herself, or her letting the daughter shoot her, was also pointless.
Mm-hmm.
That was completely pointless. And what was the point of the whole thing?
Yeah, because she was able to transfer, I guess, her AI to another robot when she go meets woman at that,
Yeah,
abandoned place.
yeah. So then she goes and kills that mom, and well, she's actually not really dead. Then that means you will keep an eye on the daughter all the time. But will she
Mm-hmm.
interfere? Will she intervene anytime the daughter makes a mistake? Or, and then when it comes to mistakes as well, what she deems as mistakes and not just any mistake, you know?
Mm-hmm, for sure. And I guess the last question I had about the ending was, so did woman like convince daughter to escape to avoid being lonely?
Did mother,
So
the woman,
essentially, like, because like woman like was essentially telling daughter that this place is not good for her, essentially, and that we need to like escape, because essentially like she told her that, oh, we need to go find like other humans, that sort of deal. And then like when like daughter sees her place, she's like, oh, no one is there, and then turns out woman lied. So I'm just wondering, like, did woman did all of that to avoid being lonely?
oh, that's a very interesting, I didn't think of that. Because
Mm-hmm.
you would think, why did she give that much attention to the girl if she didn't really care much about children or the boy itself? Because she said, leave the boy. But she really, really did care about the girl. And maybe she just needed any sense of, she did maybe feel lonely, perhaps. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why she got the girl to save her. But the thing is, when she's asked herself, who is your mother, at the end by the droid, she doesn't answer
Yeah.
that question.
Yeah.
Does that mean does she not have any memory or any recollection of where she was born? I know that they found, because I think she said they found her orphan, isn't it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So is she not aware, a part of her not aware that she was also raised by mother at some point?
Uh, Again, we don't know for sure, because
Yeah.
I guess like the film suggests that she was the first test
Mhm.
subject, and we don't know like at what point like either she left or she got kicked out, but
I think the mother gave her away to the humans.
yeah.
Makes sense that she was kicked out when she could have easily been aborted like the others. I feel like that's mother's plan anyways. Anyone less of being a perfect human being in her eyes will either get aborted, like torched. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't. I think she did this to prove. I don't know, maybe like an experiment to see how this daughter would turn out if she was raised outside by human beings.
Mm-hmm. For sure, yeah. Because certainly like, yeah, this whole movie feels like a test in a way, but
Yeah, yeah, it does. Like, did the mother? Because when she asked at the end, the last thing she says is, "Don't you think you've been the reason you're alive is because I let you, or you
mm-hmm.
were, I gave you that opportunity, or you were given that opportunity by whom? She herself, obviously, but she's saying that she served her purpose right now, and that she has no use for her, so that's why she killed her at the end. Or did she kill her? We don't know as well. But obviously, one can assume that she got killed because of the eerie mood and atmosphere as she was closing down the bunker, and
For sure. So, any other points you want to add for the lowlight section?
No, I think that was it. I think that was it. That's just I had to I didn't rewatch it again to understand.
Yeah.
However, I did read about it a little bit because I was a bit confused about initially when the first subject, and you've got all these like loose ends. So I did read about it, and initially I thought that was okay. I wish they explained it in the movie, because throughout the movie I had a lot of questions, and that was giving me a lot of distractions. At a point I felt like I couldn't focus on the story at hand because I was thinking, hey, what happened earlier? Hey, that they never discussed that point, and made me distracted throughout the whole movie. I don't know if that's a good point or a bad point, but I do wish they kind of had a little extra 10, 15 minutes just to explain a lot of other things. But I guess maybe that was the point of the movie, for you to make up your own interpretations and make up your own deductions.
For sure. So let's segue into the trivia section. So essentially fun facts about the film. So the film premiered at the 2019 Sundance Film Festival, where it was acquired by Netflix. So for any of you video gamers out there, so it has references to Portal and Portal 2. So Mother resembles GLaDOS in her facial appearance, voice, and facility-wide control. A young woman is trapped in a facility and forced to perform tests. Later in the film, daughter's jumpsuit is tied around her waist, revealing a white tank top, which is almost identical to Shell's outfit. She is also offered cake by Mother, which is a recurring theme/joke in Portal. The themes to both also appear to be escape, which is interesting.
Wow, very interesting.
So are you familiar with the Portal games?
Not that much, but as I was reading up on it, I did see this trivia fun fact. So I did a bit of a research in Google, and I could see the physical appearance similar to Shell, the character, being very similar to the protagonist in the movie, especially with the tank top and the gun and all of that.
So another fact, the eye of Mother is an homage to HAL 9000 of 2001: A Space Odyssey, which I haven't seen, but I hear it's an excellent movie.
Yes, I was actually when I was watching oh, I forgot about that movie. What was it called? Oh, that's so funny because I had the movie right in my mouth. The one with Matthew McConaughey when he goes into space. What's it called?
Interstellar?
Interstellar, yes. So I remember when I was watching Interstellar and I was comparing it to the Space Odyssey, like other space movies, other futuristic kind of movies. And I remember having argument, because I think I was at university at that time. I was having argument with my friends about how I thought Space Odyssey was much better than Interstellar, because I wasn't one of those people that was completely wowed by it initially when I first watched it. So yeah, it brings me back. I think it's a very interesting movie, and you should definitely watch it. Maybe perhaps in the future could give a podcast.
For sure. Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. So the film was featured in an episode of Adam Savage's show called Tested, which is available on YouTube. So in that episode, for Mother, it was actually played by a guy named Luke Haller. So he did the motion capture for the film. So he both wore a replica of Mother and also wore a suit. So if you check out that episode, it goes into details the makings of the movie.
Yes, I was really interested. I was really intrigued and impressed the fact that they actually got someone to put on a suit to play the Mother role, instead of making it a CGI because it's a robot and whatnot. So I when I sort of when I found out about that information, I was really, really, really intrigued. Throughout when I was watching the movie, for some reason, I didn't really have any thoughts about the mother. I just viewed her as a robot, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think about, the behind the scenes of it. Oh, is this an actor inside a suit, or is it a CG? That didn't really cross my mind at all because I was so involved. I mean, it was so believable that it was a robot. I didn't even question it.
Mm-hmm. Because for me, I was kind of like the opposite because I first saw like the behind the scenes in that
Ah,
episode from Corridor Crew because that's
mm,
how I first learned about the movie. And then like
okay.
watching it unfold, I'm like, oh, this is really impressive.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting. Kind of different point of view. I would love to see if I knew that, it was someone in a suit, how would I view like, with the running and everything? Because it did give me like a really scary, eerie vibe when the robot was moving.
Mm-hmm, for sure. And the last point I'll bring up, the book that woman uses to draw her sketches in is a paperback copy of Edgar Rice Burroughs' The Gods of Mars. There are thematic similarities between the book and the film. Both feature characters that are being misled about the true nature of the world they live in, and the arrival of an outsider exposing the deception.
Interesting.
For sure. And so, lastly, I usually ask this question: should this movie be rediscovered? So, Hodan, do you want to start?
Um, I do think it's a very like, it's suspenseful but familiar kind of a movie. It depends on what you like, to be honest, your preferences. It is enjoyable, a little bit drawn out. um I do think for some point, because it's such a thought-provoking movie, I do think for discussions yeah, it should be discovered.
For sure. Yeah, because I'm on that same boat. Like, yeah, I do recommend the film because for me, like, what stood out was the technical aspects of the film. It
Mm,
was very impressive, despite, like, it being a low budget. It certainly does not look low budget.
yeah.
And so, and I thought, yeah, Luke Haller, like as Mother, like with the motion capture, did a great job. I would say check out, yeah, Adam Savage's Tested and the VFX episode on Quarter Crew, which is available on YouTube. I loved, yeah, the performances like from the cast, like especially
100%.
Clara Rugaard as daughter.
Yes, she was a great. She did really great acting in that movie, and also Hilary Swank as well, as usual. I really love that
Hmm
actress. So really great acting from all the actors and actresses. Um, I do think that, yeah, although it is should be rediscovered, I think everybody would find different aspects of what they like from the movie, because you did mention that you like the technical aspects, while some would like the, the more of the, the philosophical aspects to it.
hmm
So I think there is a little bit of everything for everybody.
For sure. And also to another point, I love the use of the ambiguity of the character motivations, which maybe you can tell at the beginning, but not quite until the end of the film.
Yes, I mean, if you'd like to make your own deductions, this is definitely a movie for you.
For sure. So that pretty much concludes this episode of the podcast. So, hold on, are there any plugins you want to share?
Yes, definitely. You can find me on Instagram at H0THAN. So that's Hodan. And also on Twitter at H0THANATION. So Hodan Nation. And yeah, so those are the two main social media that I use. You can find me on.
That's awesome. So you could follow myself on Twitter and Instagram at Nomfanelo. You could follow the podcast on Twitter and Instagram at RDMoviesPod, and you can use the hashtag RDMoviesPod. You could answer the question that's featured on Spotify. So you could like, share, and subscribe to the podcast on your preferred platform. And you could submit questions, comments, and suggestions by email, which is rediscoveredmovies@gmail.com, or you can leave a short voice message on anchor.fm/rdmoviespod. So I want to say thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode of the podcast. Do you have any final notes you want to add, Hodan?
No, thank you so much for having me. This is definitely a great movie to review, and I enjoyed every minute of it. So thank you.
Yes, and it was a pleasure to having you on the podcast. And for those of you guys, if you want to check out the film, it's available on Netflix. So again, thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode. Until next time.
Bye.